Shakespeare in the Bush, a classic 1966 essay by Laura Bohannon, reflects and recounts her attempt to explain Hamlet to the people of West Africa, especially the Thebes. The stories become one of the most widely taught pieces in anthropology because it illustrates not only how universal stories can shift meaning across cultures, it also is relative to how we communicate to these cultures. As Bohannon arrived in the Thebe community with a copy of Hamlet, she's confident that the play's betrayal of grief and revenge are universal. However, she was challenged by a colleague that says, no, that is not how the Thebe in West Africa will understand this, because this is what the English, and there is a difference in culture and communication. And as she tells the story around the fireside to the elders of the Thebe, she's continually interrupted in the fact that the worldview is different. They believe in ghosts versus zombies, marriage customs, and moral expectations. In addition, they believe in the cause and effect, and they reject the idea that Ophelia in the story could accidentally drown because water is considered safe in their culture. This is not normal in the U.S., as the U.S. believes that there are ghosts. We don't believe in zombies. We believe in marriage customs, that marriage is sacred, that we do not believe in multiple wives. We believe that the norm is to have one wife, and having an affair is not acceptable morally. We also believe that water, we can drown. That is not inherently a safe space. As you can see, there's different worldviews across cultures. And also we believe in how we communicate, and as we communicate our stories, that we must communicate with respect and with purpose. Some cultures do not understand our language, therefore respect and being able to convey that respect and listening is communication that is very important in a worldwide cultural view. A personal experience that I had where there was a cultural misunderstanding would be when I was speaking with the Muslims. I was under the impression that because I was speaking the truth of the biblical truth of the Bible, of Jesus' story of Jesus Christ, that I would be interpreted as being relevant and being sincere. Unfortunately, I misinterpret the culture, where as a female, I was not to look them in the eye, I was not to invade their personal space, and my story had no relevance or was not trustworthy because I communicated as a female out of America, which was a cultural difference, which I was not respected and I was not accepted. Therefore, my story of Jesus Christ and my communication of him was not accepted or was not listened to, and they did not consider me to be relevant. Some of the most significant ideas that I would say that this story has is that there is cultural relativism. It means that everything is shaped by cultural context, but not by their societies. It's also that even though humility may have been somewhat presented, it was not presented enough or accurately for that particular culture. So therefore, you should not assume that a culture and communication, because you're communicating a story, it does not mean that it is relative and it is not accepted by that particular culture. And lastly, you must also interpret flexibility. Even though stories are, ones that we believe, because we're telling the story, that it should be universal, that is not the truth. It is not the truth that because the story is written, because we're communicating it, and that we know we are morally or ethically presenting it in a worldview that should be acceptable, that is not always the case. Therefore, communication is the most significant, and respect is the most significant what the story conveys. And therefore, Bohannon, although she had the best of intentions, She was not able to communicate effectively to a culture that was not understanding and did not accept her worldview.